Thank you, Singh Sahab and Ms. Verma and Noah from Israel. Really, this is a topic which actually has got roots in enormous amount of science, including the social and political arena. So the water, energy, environment nexus, actually there is also a big component of food that is associated over here, because as world over, we use about 70% of our freshwater resources for growing the food and sustaining the food chain across the societies. Energy also is another important component in which we generally spend largest amount of industrial water supply into the energy generation. And then the energy also has a linkage to the water, because the energy is also required in order to provide or serve the water to various users. And then the environment is an all-encompassing thing. So the transversality of the water, food, energy, environment nexus is very large. When we look at it from our country, India point of view, we, on one hand, we have a situation where you have what you can say plenty. And on the other side, you have extreme shortages. It is almost like saying that your feet are in fire and your head is in refrigerator and you are at a normal temperature. The water is an parameter or is a resource which has got multiple dimensions. It is not a static resource, it's a dynamic resource. The water doesn't really remain static, it flows, it transforms into various phases. And through that, the entire life cycle progresses. So it is very important to understand that what is the kind of randomness that we are endowed with, what is the kind of skew that we are endowed with in a geographical term, and also opportunities in terms of the topography and in terms of the availability of land in order to practice or in order to provide water and carry out our activities. So these are really very complex challenges. We have been generally thinking about the integrated water resources management, which is basically another name of understanding the nexus and also trying to provide or trying to manage the water in a manner that the various stakeholders do not feel shortchanged. But then this also has got another issue in a federally governed country like us, where we haven't done a very clear demarcation of our water rights or of our water entitlements. And that is through a lot of other social and political arena, that these issues also overpower the optimal management of water. We have situations where we have plenty in one area and the neighboring areas may be starving, but then we will not be able to implement the solutions which will actually provide a kind of a balance over the two. We may have areas which will have more than their fair share, but then they will not be able to part with their share to the other areas who are in a greater need. So in an integrated manner, we are unable to think about the water in a manner that it's a common pool resource, it's a public good, and that public good has to be used in a manner that is equitable to all the stakeholders. So this is an area which really affects the nexus part. Because in one of the arms of the water management, you will either do an overconsumption or you will do a kind of a wasteful consumption of water. So this is an area which needs to be really looked at very seriously. We progressed from an era where the population was less, the land available was plenty, and the demands were also relatively less. That is what I am talking about, like when we started out our water management in the country. But then over the period of time, the situation has undergone a substantial change. And because of this change, the changes that are required at the governance level are something that have not happened. And because of that, we are unable to generate a unified thinking process across the country about the water. This is a big challenge that India will have to face if it has to go to 2047 as a developed country. Because in that case, water is going to be a prime resource on which the developmental economics or the developed society will be built on. Another major issue that we need to really address while we try to tackle this nexus is the water use efficiency. When we are allocating water, when we are supplying water, we are not asking or we are not requiring a kind of a commitment on the part of the consumer about the efficiency at which this water will be used by that particular consumer. Or we are not defining that this water is provided to you with an expectation of this efficiency, and because of that you will have to really make do with this kind of supply. So these are the issues which are required to be addressed if we have to really address the nexus. The energy part is also very, very closely linked with the water as we have seen. But then in case of energy, one good thing that is there is that the energy is being treated like a commodity. You have pricing associated with the consumption and generation and consumption of energy. But unfortunately, the similar kind of issues are not really, similar kind of linkages are not there with respect to water. And that is also providing us with a big challenge. And that is also affecting us in ensuring the efficiencies of water use, which will actually provide you with so much amount of extra resource out of the finite resource that you already have. These issues are all having their importance, and it is not possible to really take only one issue and then try to tackle it and then think that other issues will fall in the line. Like what we saw when we try to really kind of implement a particular kind of a measure, that measure lands up creating effects in the associated spheres at other levels. And then those will then in turn try to kind of restrict the kind of aim that you are trying to achieve in a particular area. So neither it is possible to think purely in technical terms, nor it is possible to think purely in administrative terms, and nor is it purely able to think in a kind of a purely welfareist terms. All these areas are required to be handled in an integrated way in order to generate the water energy environment nexus. This is a condition which it is not only here in India, but in most part of the world. This particular kind of a challenge is occurring in a different manner. In some of the other countries, there may be an extreme shortage of water and there may be issues on that front, and in some of the countries there will be an excess of water rather, and because of that they will have to face the challenge. And on top of all this, we will have to really have adapt to the climate change. So what I feel is that the water energy environment nexus requires a very holistic approach. It will be always a kind of a recommended kind of a practice that if we can go towards the integrated water management in a holistic sense, do not simply talk on the quantities, do not also talk only in the terms of outputs, and also think on the equity. That will be an area where we will have to work on so that the water, energy, food and environment nexus is established, and also is able to, provide a kind of a progressive mechanism for the country. Yeah, thank you very much.